Authors Press.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Richardson and I'm from Authors Press. Today is August 5th, 2022. October 5th, my apologies. Welcome to another fantastic virtual interview where I'm gathered with Gregg Jann, the author of A Jann Plan, Creative Origins, Advocacy, Teach Peace, and Creative Accountability. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Gregg?
Well, I had a very happy childhood. My dad was a minister, and he was the big cheese of the whole church, and I felt he was very important. And my mom was a professional homemaker, complete with a home ec degree, and she really knew how to raise children. My life was sadness and had tragedy, but I was a legend about it. I didn't really tell people about my legend, so that may have made me underestimated. My dad moved his work to New York to be a National Council of Churches president. He was very important. I went to 3 colleges: Santa Rosa Junior College, Chico State University, and Sonoma State. I was a manager of retail, and I served on boards, the mental health board, Planner Olivet School Board, and I was a union rep. I was lead negotiator of a contract, and I didn't want to get too much into work, but I'm a single guy. I like women exclusively, and I just have done a lot of things about work, and that's what the book is a lot about. It's an idea man for president.
Okay, and that does kind of lead me to my next question. Could you tell us a little bit about your book as well?
Well, I did suffer mental illness, and I feel fully recovered. We all take medicine, is what we have. I was first diagnosed with schizophrenia, became schizoaffective, and I solved a lot of similar problems, GAD and anxiety, which is anxiety and attention deficit, but I don't really have that right now. None of it is about suffering in this book. It's about businessmen and fantasites stealing ideas. It's a whole hidden world of mental illness and even education system you don't talk about in what's in the classroom, but it has a lot of educated ideas about motivation and design and all kinds of just revealing a world we don't really know about. Even legislation. I feel like the Mental Health Services Act as a write-in meetings doing that. And it's just a whole, when you're a staff member, they say you work for money. And I'm trying to do another ballot initiative, more Teach Peace and Creative Accountability or something like that. And I think Teach Peace should be the goal of mental health, not just money of staff.
And would you say that is what inspired the idea for this book?
A lot of it. I wanted more of a Teach Peace ballot initiative, and I had to work on my credibility. No one calls me a liar or a fraud to my face, and I don't really know it. I wanted credibility, and that's how the layout of the book is. A lot of mental health educational essays, lost intellectual property, of naming companies or naming diseases, deadly communicable disease. It's all out of what might be called a classified person, but no one ever told me I'm classified. They told me Chico State was a military school. I had bosses, people in my Bible study being colonels. It's like Army colonels, or Air Force colonels, or Coast Guard colonels. There's a hidden incident with a mass murderer that I had, and that was part of the tragedy. I feel victorious about everything, elections and everything. It's just a hard world, and I don't know what to say more about that.
What is the significance of the title? Like, where does the term A Jann Plan come from?
Well, when your last name is Jann, I was chomping at the bit. I wanted, a plan. It basically comes from my school board era. It had to come with a plan. Accountability was the issue, and it was particularly my issue. When you have lost intellectual property, it hit me like a lightning bolt. That was my particular personal issue about business and accountability. And we want school children, we want the school board members, we want our teachers and our administration to be accountable. My particular issue that I self-chose especially was character ed. I had character, despite the social drubbing I took up during the union fight during the day. I won't get into it. This book did get into it in cleaner terms. But Jann Plan, Creative Origins, Advocacy, Teach Peace, Creative Accountability. I did want to go into Teach Peace aspects. That was my second ballot initiative, and I've done that in later books, a little bit shorter terms. But this could be like a whole honor code, the legislation in here about Teach Peace, Creative Accountability. It has Creative Origins. It isn't just intellectual property. The businessman, the idea, beginning an idea, trying to develop it, but also children. And let's not forget that. I'm single, but I care about children. Teachers not only want all your bucks, but they get people to say, you don't care about my children when I was a swan man going around the county. There's all kinds of sabotage. It's like, I do care about people. I was helping my niece. She wants to be president, and I kind of did that as my own program. Do Your Favor Friday or Get With the Program was on the radio of the 80s. I had fun with that. It kept me on the straight and narrow.
Are there any parts to this book that you connect to on a deeper level, or a more significant level?
Well, I was emailing people trying to get a girlfriend, and somehow I got caught up in Russian beauties. I don't know why I did that. I don't want to be distrusted at all, and a lot of part of the book is about credibility. And the only title I did of others, and I did quote that in the book, was a lady asked me to do subhuman judgmentalism discrimination, and that was a real hard topic. And I wrote a lot of notes afterward that were all true. The whole book is nonfiction, not only autobiographical, but nonfiction. Things that are true. I was educated, or true stories, legends, or things I want. Think about political science. Things aren't there, but they're nonfiction. And it's a difficult topic. And I didn't know what she meant when I wrote it. I didn't know if she meant people against people are discriminated, or people receiving that are discriminated. And it's a topic I hated, but I wrote it. And I don't know if she meant we're against Russians that way, or we're against clients that way. When I worked in the group home, that's the longest job I ever had, 10 years. And those people, not all of them, but they were rude about the words. And I was a consumer staff counselor, and I turned to be more professional. And it was just tough. And it was a tough thing to write. And I really related to everything in that section of the book. It's completely not about a blog. It's just, I rewrote it and added personal things. And it's really hard to find on the blog, but it's a lot better written in the book, and more stuff to write about. And it's not about a Russian at all. It's about a woman who wanted to know that. And people read me around to a lot of places. And it really touched me. All the women did. All the women parts did. And I don't know, it may have been edited out, a lot of my books about the women.
How would you want your book to impact your readers?
To believe me. And both the designs, it's kind of written in 3-book style. Whether I did the AIDS acronym, I mentioned in 3 books. I mentioned source plans, credits. I mentioned this is the first of 3 books I wrote about designing the internet, having a part before the internet was designed. Particularly my latest book really tries to prove it. And this is just contributions of it. And don't forget, I want to teach people that I'm very uplifting and positive in spirit toward those with mental illness. I suffered myself, and I'm very triumphant in a lot of general economy ways. Even the way it's written is short essay forms, and that's basically my style. I wrote many other things, and they're just essay style, longer than 2 paragraphs, but just several paragraphs, based on life, based on education, taking the education into my own story, trying to be accurate after all these sweat equity years of remembering myself. And overall, the book is about rememories. That's my whole past decade. Um, it's a psychological process I did on my own after recovery, just throwing my head back, remembering my whole life.
What would you say was the easiest part of developing this book?
The way I had discrete memories and wrote little parts of it, and then just had to compile letters, entries, um, ad housing, guaranteed, subsidized, and knew I could get published. It's a vanity publisher, Rose Dog Books. I love the way they did it. I was recommended by, I sent a copyright certificate, and they told me, the Copyright Office, I recommend these guys. Very little editing. I could claim things. I could be that hidden world of mental illness. I could be myself. I don't know if the big time publishers could do it. They're an East Coast publisher. My dad was bi-coastal with my dad, so I felt accepted by the publishing world, and I did it little discrete forms. It took me 5 years to compile all that and write that, and I still wrote essays. The legislation, I could do that. It's just that I can do it.
I'm glad that was the easiest part for you, because for some people that's not easy.
Yeah.
On the other hand, what would you say was the hardest part of developing this book?
Status. And I don't want to be blacked out like Ultimate or something, but my status was hard. It's something that it's to this day, I believe. I don't want to say I'm popular with women, and I write kiss and tell all books. And my last one, and I don't know if they're edited out sometimes. My book is here, and it looks different than my original book. Like people come into my apartment and just replace it. And I do have other contracts to put it in bookstores, because the publisher I love doesn't have a distribution into bookstores. But I recently signed with somebody to put it in bookstores. And this looks like, they have all those obscenity, smut, and all that stuff, defamations. But this, it's like the hardest part was my status. And you want me to say it? It's like forced technical virgin. But I'm not. But I'm more experienced than I used to be. And at the time, I didn't experience these things back then in the Union Solian or the movie I claimed to be my first book, Bettering the World, which is a short story that was written before the movie. The Union fight had a boss that was president of Hollywood High, and I always felt I was that movie, the 40-year-old virgin, but I can't really say I did it. I never saw my name on the credit when I saw it. And it's at least too close a likeness to a short story that I put in afterward, but I emailed it out in 99, before my 40th birthday. But I did publish it. And so I don't know Hollywood that well. But it's hard talking about my status. It's always embarrassing.
How did writing this book make you feel? What kind of emotions did it evoke?
Embarrassed, healthy. I got more confident acknowledging things in my life. I felt like I like to motivated by expression. I tell people that in job interviews, mostly women. I felt that it would up my esteem. I felt I was overcoming sadness, which I only described as melancholy. I felt proud. I felt more like my father, who was in Who's Who. I am in Who's Who, Marquis Who's Who. I felt like I was more legitimate. I felt I was gaining credibility. It is outlandish when everybody talks about Microsoft is developing the internet when he just made the computer smaller. I feel, uh, I'm trying to establish my place in the world, and I don't know what feeling that is when I don't tell people I write the book, and which is a big flaw. I try to establish my reputation. I don't know what that is. It's tentative or something. I'm trying to write my books, establish my reputation as a quiet person, and then just blast it out. And that's what I'm working without the reputation for, out the press for, to get known after writing my books, and then get it known. Doing a persuasive sales job.
Do you feel like you made a mistake when you used human names in your book?
Well, I don't like saying the word human. I like saying people's names. But some people in the industry of mental health, like that subhuman discrimination, it's not my term. I say mental health consumer, but I don't like saying patient. I was trained in the consumer movement. They kind of held me back. But just saying people's names. There's all kinds of libel, slander, things like that. And it's just when you write political science or commentary, I didn't get permission. It was too hard to get permission. And it's patterned after my friend. I had two good close friends as a youth, and I thought that was enough. I used to say I have embarrassment or richness because we had a pool. We had liability issues about letting people use our pool, a swimming pool. I wasn't very extroverted. I explained that in my most latest book about my childhood because I was always afraid about revealing too much. But I think my friend, my mentor, there's an essay here about my fun mentor. I didn't name them by names. I named other people. I just kind of name dropped them to show, it's all about credibility, that these are real people. I feel that when you talk, I didn't want them to think I was fantasy when you're mentally ill or pensive or something. But his name's Frank Jann. He's a painter. He's an American Impressionist, president of the American Impressionist movement. And his brothers are my best friends from young. They're in all my renditions of Point Reyes. A hideous crime, mass murder. It's just horrible. But he was a great painter, and he didn't get permission to paint his landscapes. They're accurate mountains, and I didn't get permission of anything. I did, and that's what that's what's patterned of. You don't buy donuts from a homeowner or landowner. You just sit there, hop a barbed wire fence, and start painting, and that's the way I'm patterned. Because it's mine. I was there at the start.
As an author, do you think it's a good idea to mention the design credits you provided at first?
Well, they're not titles, I don't believe. I'm my creation. And I have one on a legacy brick at Sonoma State, a different one. And I feel I can create them. I have an intellectual property attorney, and there's a whole story about it. Back in 2005, I called him. I was referred to him by my employer. As I drove there, I put a knife in my pocket, and there was a military helicopter flying over at my head from Santa Rosa to Silicon Valley. And when I got to the Golden Gate Dole Trouser, I said, making it to the peninsula, kind of a reference in my white car to the White Fleet or something, of Kennedy or something. I got to his office, I had a knife in my pocket, and I just started talking like it was my lucky break. I wanted my lucky break about intellectual property. And what he said is, are you crazy? I can't represent crazy designer. And it's like I didn't know what I wanted, but I wanted a lucky break for designing the computer internet, starting it before it was in Chico State, 86. Because I did a drawing, and I was good. I talked about peace theme, and that's what this book's supposed to mean, code and peace theme. And I did in 3 books. I said some crazy things, but that was after he said I can't represent crazy designer, and I didn't know I was that, because I always had confident thinking. I just couldn't my ability of disability is I cannot work long hours sustainably, and I worked 100-hour weeks at that time. I've been on it twice, but it's just unbearable working for long hours a week. But that guy, it's just it's a hairy scene trying to upset the status quo about hundreds of billions of dollars. And I don't think I don't think these guys want to represent me. Now on Goodreads.com, I thought it's onerous that bureaucrats also took me. And it's like, it's amazing what they do. The conspiracies, the lack of, and I'm just trying to build trust with the public. That it's not just my dad. I have my own independent philosophies and thinking, and I go to Bible study in church. It's just that it's too much money that you didn't from my hidden world of a guy who's college educated who did this stuff, and it just I even forgot your question. I was so passionate about this.
More specifically, I asked, do you think it's a good idea to mention the design credits?
Well, it does. That was also part of the book. I try to build up credibility. Source Perspective Designer. Later book mentions founder source plank, and that's the one at Sonoma State on a stone. I don't know how long it's going to last. But those have two different meanings. Like one is for medicine, where the doctors design it with my inspiration as a good, clean story, never been an inmate, making changes, contributing to medicine through a union thing, and Mental Health Services Act, if they have their own review panel, regardless of what politicians say, knowing what I did. Source Perspective Designer, something I created in the book, is target source designer, which I didn't write, or maybe I wrote. Someone at Target stores, it's something like that. They're creator credits. Now, I don't know if people just lift them up when I say my motivation is to help and expression. Maybe they're just going to take it off like some kind of cheap magazine and use it for themselves, their own home-based business. Like I have my home-based business right here. I have a business license that you might not have. My business license, healthcare services. I really don't know if you can just take it off a back cover.
In what ways would you consider yourself intelligent?
It's funny. I was an A student in high school. I got very high, that were just astronomical test scores. Early on my ACT, which is the only USC, it was just very high in the county. And then in June, I got a lot of college offers because I said interesting science. And then I got to the JC. I took engineering because I wanted a job first and foremost, and I got all straight C's. But in junior year in high school, it said National Merit Scholar, commended student. And my scores, and it's like I'm top 5%. And I thought the real Merit Scholars may have been better. In the paper, it had me as an A student with all them. National Merit Scholars were mentioned other people. Now and then my recommendation from my colonel says, you are a Merit Scholar. Now, I don't know if I'm a Merit Scholar or not, but I might be, because I had a project called Reconciling Christianity. And it was approved in '97 by my vote floor. That was my project based on the Gloria Patri thing. So I might be a true National Merit Scholar. Commended student, that means one with the project. And on my own making. And I don't know if it's higher or lower than as National Merit Scholar semifinalist, which, I had a project, test scores, and A grades. And I went to college. And that's where I started my editorial career. So, I'm more than test scores because I graduated from college and explored an alternate reality. Not like the Las Vegas, fear and living in Las Vegas, but mental illness, which hurts the grades in college. I survived the college, and I'm not an inmate. I have wisdom and judgment, and was attacked by Machiavelli by the colonel in the group homes, attacking my weaknesses, which I did not tell her. It just, I some kind of wisdom, not going into jail or mental hospital, and some kind of test score proofs of intelligence, but I feel kind of silly and slow in some ways, and I am modest enough, but I'm not overly modest. I just don't. I work nonviolent, and I try to add an emotional intelligence in the schools with my kindness and love policies that I do and create with acceptance. And so I add to people, enhance people, one-on-one, through policies and kindness, through schools and mental health statewide, and I add to people and I help people. So I think I'm intelligent.
I'm glad you think you're intelligent. That's an important thought. Your book mentions honorable and honor in the title as a quality. Do you want to comment on that at all?
Well, I'm Mr. Gregg Jann, but sometimes Congress elected officials call me Honorable Gregg Jann, and in a way the bank takes it. And during my advocacy letters for the credit union, particularly the Honorable Gregg Jann, and there's a section here from one honor to the other honor. Originally, the bank wouldn't take it like a check or something. They said, this doesn't count. It's free, and I use it particularly. It was given by there's a story in the book about a Japanese woman who worked as a management employee at San Francisco State, and she was the first one to recognize it. I asked her to call me honorable, and she did in the fundraising at the Sonoma County Democratic Central Committee. And I've used it. Not everybody has one. Not everyone uses it. I use it in the judge's chamber for traffic tickets, and they like it. It's the same as just judge's title. And I always call it Carol A. She was assembly candidate, and that's when she used it. It's not the Constitution doesn't allow you to recognize, but people in their campaigns can use it, and I use it. It's just fun. It's not meant to be real, but it's okay. It's okay, and it's a real quality. And one thing I say is honor protects honor. It's not really in a book. I say really good quotes sometimes. And it's a quality I use there, and we know it means integrity. It means maybe figurehead, or it can mean sacrifice for a good cause. But I do mean kind of going out to the world and going out in that globe and trying to make peace. That's what I really want to do.
Has anyone with financial capability shown interest in investing in the contributions that were made in the Jann plan?
There's some kind of contracts going around with another agency to put it in bookstores, and several of my books that the Rose Dog bookstore was just online most of the time. They did on Amazon and things, and I appreciated how they published. And then also. We're working on a movie, on a feature book, and we need investors for that movie. I don't want to. It was a fire book here locally. We've had a lot of tragedy, and I was really, all those feelings, shy, bashful, they keep me quiet, and also I'm really worried about the hurt we had here. And who I attributed that fire to is worth a movie. Even I called my book was vaguely written that it is nonfiction, but I don't control the movie so much. But maybe I do. I'm not sure how Hollywood works. But it's being selected for a movie, and we're working on that. The Truth to Origin one, and I want to be as successful as the triple one of Star Trek, because it has constitutional amendment and things like that, including the internet. And just a few words in founding of the reconciling movement. That book, but this book is the foundations of that. Getting into bookstores is what I want.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or mention in regards to your book before we wrap this up?
Well, I think that the last thing I wrote was the poem, and the poem at the beginning. That I am to do this. Um, I want my whole family happy. Some things, something about family math gets you promoted in psychology jobs. I do have a psychology business and advocacy. I think I almost need a private eye to find out where they are. That I had a big family. I don't. My brother was an astronaut candidate, and I really don't know. I don't know sometimes where they are, and and sometimes I wonder if your friends, family know where I am, because you're almost under closure when you're a client or consumer. I'm high functioning in a way, but I do lack some driving skill and things. Um, my last book kind of uncovers that wiretapping, which I feel like I am because I'm a speechwriter, and you don't see that in this book. It's like I completely unravel an onion from that mass murder incident in Point Reyes, and that's the first story in this book. And it took several books to try to figure it out because I didn't really have counseling or any help. But I'm okay. I've always been okay. I didn't have too much help. Psychotherapy, really. I didn't have a therapist, really. But things work out. But where the hell's my family and people I used to know?
And I just have one more question for you. Have you ever worked with Authors Press before?
No, and I like it. I like what we're doing. I think that this is my first interview, really, about a book or on YouTube. I talked to my hairdresser about things like this. She nicked my eyebrow. Hopefully you don't know it, but I like to do contracts. I like to do things like this. In school board, I always did presentations. I have a job at NAMI about inner own voices. I do all kinds of inner voice presentations. I do all kinds of presentations, but sometimes this is a new unique experience promoting and promotion of a book or promoting my ideas and introducing me to YouTube and to the public at large. And I appreciate it.
If you ever have any advice for Authors Press or, questions or concerns, you can email us through phone or email. And we're always here to help. But I think that's all the questions I have for you today.
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome. Like I just mentioned, if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to Authors Press either via email or phone number, and we're more than happy to help.
Thank you. I'll look forward to it.
This has been Gregg K. Jann, the author of A Jann Plan, and Nicole Richardson from Authors Press. Thank you so much for listening.